24 app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Stay tuned with Millennium TV and Millennium News 24 for the latest updates.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Jineea Butler, from the New American Perspective, here today on your Wednesday, Power Wednesday. How are you today? How are you around the world? Where are you tuning in from around the world? I still haven't heard from you, but we know that you're checking in. We want to know more about you. Tap in. This is your host today for the New American Perspective, and we're going to get right in. So we know right off the bat what's been happening. Epstein files. Okay, so we know the Epstein files, both the House and the Senate have they both signed, excuse me, excuse me, and we're going to talk about the weather too coming up. But the Epstein files, big deal right now. So Trump said, come on, let's have it. We know that we've seen his name in emails, and there's a bunch of names in emails. And so now they had a rally in DC yesterday. We need to know what's being released, what's being hidden, and if it means what it means to you as a business owner or community leader or investor, right? Does this really matter to us? Now, it should matter to us, right? Because there was a whole bunch of sex trafficking going on with prominent figures in the world, not just the United States. And I think, and this is where the New American Perspective comes in, because this wasn't just the United States. This is around the world. So the headline right now is House moves to release the Epstein files, a bipartisan push. So first time in the Trump administration this year, we actually see the Democrats and the Republicans actually agreeing on something. So everybody in the House but one Republican did not approved for the vote, right? So Epstein investigations, the files, what's been made public versus what is still sealed. So there's still stuff still sealed. So what are we going to see? There's the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So Jeffrey Epstein died in 2013. It is now 2025, and we are still here. Now, the victims, we seen them out there, and they made me feel some type of way. We seen them out hugging and holding each other and really just fighting to open this all up. Now, my question now, we got a perspective here. We got to flip this in our perspective way. My question here, right, is Jeffrey Epstein, right? Did Trump play the Democratic Party by saying, oh no, I'm not going to release. And then they made it about him. And so now they're going to release the files. Now, is he going to be a big pedophile in the middle of this? And, would he have been convicted? I don't know, and what happens if he does? How do you feel about it if he's in there and you feel like he's in there too much? We know that all these people have known Jeffrey Epstein. We know that people knew Weinstein, the movie producer. We know that all these people are doing this. And so now what happens when we really get the information, when the information really, really comes out, right? So let me just look here. I want to break down some of the segments of what is happening and going on, right? Okay, so we know it's the House and the bipartisan lawmakers pushing to release the files. We know that the Epstein Files Transparency Act is gaining momentum. So it looks like they're going to just continue to use this because a lot of people are in it. Survivors and advocates holding rallies in DC. So it's going to be more than one, that looks like, demanding full disclosure, right? The Department of Justice and federal agencies are now under pressure to arrest people. The public wants names, networks, and who protected Epstein and people who protected Epstein for years. This is not about gossip. This is about accountability at the highest levels. Now, are we going to see it? I'm not quite sure that we're going to see it, but I think that something is coming to, something is happening, right? So again, what does it mean? The survivors want closure, they want truth, and they want recognition, right? They seen all these, high level people out there as they're being trafficked on this island, as they're being molested, as they're being, treated like, I don't know, what are they treating them like? They had kids over there, and they're high level officials in the United States that are supposed to be looking out for us, and they're over there, right? These kids are over there, and they were over there. I don't know what they were doing. Americans want to know who abused their power, right? The public distrust of institutions is at an all-time high. So the public is like, we can't trust anyone. No one trusts political elites to police themselves. Donald Trump, if you ask him, who's coming out his mouth. Clinton. It wasn't me that they was talking about, it was Clinton. I think that he had a little moment with a reporter, and he called her a little fat girl or something. Get my words right. But the woman asked him about the Epstein files and the fact that somebody said that Trump in the file, like an email that Trump knew about the girls. So he said, I ain't know nothing about the girls. Me and Epstein had a very, very bad history over all these years. So we don't know what's happening. And some names were always protected. And the question is why, right? Is America by letting these criminals, these people are criminals. Child molestation is a crime. And it's worse than many of the other crimes that we put people in jail for. And we haven't even spoken to these people. And these people know what it is. So I wonder, what do you think? Do you think that these people are shaking in their boots right now? Or is the House being like, so it passed the House, it passed the Senate, and now Trump has to sign it. And as we're waiting for Trump to sign this, transparency isn't partisan, it's protection. And so we definitely want the transparency. So let's look at what the Republicans and the Democrats are saying about both sides. The Republicans see it as corruption and institutional fair. Yes, this is back in 2013, right? This is now 12 years ago, where this man was convicted, and he allegedly committed suicide in a Rikers Island jail when he was on suicide watch. So how do you commit suicide? Don't get me to start it, right? So some Democrats support the release, but they want limits. Why is that? Because I think what's happening is, Trump did the ultimate bait and switch, where he got everybody all riled up of what he was in there. He knows that he's in there. He knows he's been in there. And so he played this game, and now the Democrats are like, oh, let it out because we think that Trump is in there. He's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. Some Democrats support the release but want limits, right? Some powerful figures on multiple sides may be implicated. Maybe. We know that some people out here that have been participating in this whole Epstein piece. And we need to get to the bottom of it, because this cannot be what is politically pushing us ahead. The rally shows public pressure outweighing political comfort. Public pressure outweighing political comfort. So no longer can any of these Congress people, any of these senators sit back and act like this is not what the public wants to know. These political people, and what I like that I'm seeing now in all of these spectrums, is that the political people are now thinking about who's going to vote against them, right, during the next election. Now, the next election is 2026 for congressional folks, right? So you see Hakeem Jeffries, and oh my God, we got to talk about Congressman Leader Hakeem, right? Hawk, what's up, Hawk? He's in there. his silly, and I'm gonna call his outreach team who outreach for money really silly. I'm not even going to say Hakeem said, oh, yeah, reach out to Epstein for some money. No, I think that we have to look at what this political fundraising is. And when we talk about that, Hakeem Jeffries reached out to the Epstein people, reached out to Epstein and asked them for a donation for his campaign in 2013 after he was convicted as a pedophile. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, says, listen, I have no recollection. He's with this. I have no recollection. Now he kind of opened up a little bit today. I seen his eyes brighten up a little bit. Just loosen up, Hawk. Let's see. You talking about you the hip hop congressman after I came to you about hip hop, but we won't get into that. But loosen up a little bit if you're going to try to be that hip hop congressman, if that's what you're doing. Fine. But Hakeem, he said, no, I don't know about any email sent out to them. I have no idea. And and he was protecting people that are in there and saying, well, another congressperson had reached out to Epstein while they were on the House floor and talking to them, and they're saying, and Hakeem said, well, they did nothing illegal by reaching out to him and asking him for donations. But people are saying, listen, if they're all in, then they're all in. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about these Epstein files? They're shoving this down our throats and everything else that's going on. Trump's over here doing all this stuff. We're not even hearing about what's really happening and what he's really doing because we're focused on the Epstein file. So I think that we need to get this out. Now, when the government refuses transparency, communities like ours suffer the most, right? Because we don't have the political insulation. So we don't know what's going on. See what I'm saying? We don't know. So why this matters, the Epstein files. In this case study, there's government failure, there's elite protection, there's lack of accountability. Right? These people are not being accountable for the actions. We don't even know who they are. Systematic corruption. All of this is going on. So we hear that Jeffrey Epstein was able to kill himself. He was able to kill himself where you're not supposed to be able to kill yourself on Rikers Island. They circle every 5 or 10 minutes and enough, which is not enough time for somebody to strangle themselves. Well, they found this guy in his cell, hanging in his cell, right? And you're not supposed to have anything that you can hang with. So so something happened. So if institutions fail to protect vulnerable children, what else are they failing at? Do they even care about the American people if they're abusing the young people like this? It connects to trust in government during shutdowns, travel crisis, and inflation. All of this. Communities can't rely on broken systems, basically. That's what we're saying at the end of the day. We cannot rely on these broken systems, and we must empower ourselves. And that's what I'm all about. That's what the New American Agenda is about. And that's what this conversation with you all is about. What are we doing? What are we going to do next? How are we going to move, right? If the government can't protect victims or run its own investigations, is it any surprise? Is it any surprise that the country is struggling to function right now? I mean, I don't think that we're actually struggling to function. I mean, I think Trump is doing his own thing. I think that, when you're a boss, you have to step out and you have to be a leader and you have to be okay with people not liking you at times because you have to make boss moves. And when you make boss moves, guess what? Everybody doesn't understand them and everybody is not going to go along with what you say, but you have to be accountable for your actions and you have to show the people why they need to follow you. And so all of this, all of this is for regular Americans. So like So like, let me look at the Hakeem stuff, because I thought this was reports and documents show that Hakeem Jeffrey team reached out to Jeffrey Epstein for donations. These outreach emails happened after Epstein's reputation was publicly damaged. This raises questions about who knew what and when, and why donations from such a figure were even considered. And that's the part that I want to know. And Epstein was already a registered sex offender at the time. Any outreach to him, especially for donations, suggests reckless judgment, political desperation, or willingness to overlook serious crimes for money. It undermines Jesse's public image and clean Democratic leader. It also fuels distrust and political fundraising across both parties. So we're going to take a break real quick, but we've got to know that they're going to definitely, they're trying to get Chuck Schumer out right now, but I think they're going to go after Hakeem Jeffries too. We'll be back in a minute here on Millennium News 24. I'm your host, Jineea Butler. Hope to see you soon. And we are back here with your New American Perspective. I am your host, Jineea Butler, and we're here talking about everything America, everything that's going on, everything Trump, everything Black Republican. We just were talking about Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the House, being Epstein was on his donor list, right? So I doubt that Epstein ever gave him money, but I guess that his political people that are out looking for money, and I'm sure Hakeem is saying, listen, we need the money, we need it now. This is so if a GOP leader, okay, this is a good one. If a GOP leader, let me do the Malcolm X. If a GOP leader reached out to Epstein, it would be front page news everywhere, right? And it's a little low. I mean, I guess, I'm the news, so I know, but I guess it is not everywhere, and everybody is not talking about it, and everybody is not mad. Now, Hakeem, he's posting it on his YouTube, so he's trying to be transparent, but you should have been transparent years ago, because your team should have said, listen, we had messed up a while back in 2013, and we had reached out for these donations for you, and that might come back to hit you. Now, that's what he should be doing, but that's not what happens. He's stepping up. We need a political class that values people over money. Did we do that in America? We really don't. In America, that's not how we roll. This is why our community stopped trusting the politicians. Now, our community never trusted the politicians, right? And I always give that to a point that means that we're actually smart, right? That means that we're actually smart by not, I think that we should vote and be involved and everything like that. But the simple fact that we are we are not we're not involved shows that we understand that it's a whole bunch of stuff going on that we don't even need to be involved in. But this is where they catch us out there at, right? This is where they catch us up, and this is where the Democratic Party has begun to use us and manipulate us over all these years for our votes. And see, that's where I have the problem. I have the problem when people know that they know who we are. They know what we're up to. They know the whole script, right? But they know that we don't want to be involved, so they tell us who to get involved with. And so we have now become addicted to them telling us everything. And so the one good thing that I like about this administration is that we're not hearing all of the manipulation that goes to Black folks. Now the one criticism that I have about this administration too is that we're hearing nothing. Okay. And I'm just going to say that, Trump has had a busy 2025. And not that he forgot. And I think that the people that are working with him that are talking about Black agendas may not be the folks that can move the needle forward. And maybe that's why we're not hearing stuff, but we still got to hear stuff. We still got to know what the Black agenda is. Trump is trying to mix all Americans together. If you're American, you get your little $2,000 payment. And let's not forget what he did with the air traffic controllers just now that stayed on the job, and they got the $10,000, right? So they got $10,000 bonus for actually staying on the job. So, that is that's a plus. So let's shift gears a little bit. I'm tired of Epstein already. We talked about him for about 20 minutes already, and it's already 20 minutes too long. And again, shout out to all the survivors. I'm sorry that you have gone through that. Women, young people, we are abused at every turn. They look at us horribly in this world, and we have got to change that. So I definitely stand with the survivors, and the more things that come out as this opens up, I support you. Definitely. And that's from Fly Girl Lady J, who goes through issues every day with men about being, being a woman is something, serious in this life, because being a woman, especially a career woman, especially a driven woman, everybody wants to tell you in one way or another that that's not what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. Right. And, I defied all those barefoot pregnant odds. No kids. But I've defied those odds, and still, I'm treated like, why didn't you go and get barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen? Because it doesn't matter what you know, doesn't matter how smart you are a woman. And every day we are reminded of things like that. But ladies, I'm telling you that you keep pushing ahead. We, in this short period of time when the women's suffrage movement have been put in place, we are back, and we are better than ever. And our little time, we've gone very, very fast. Okay. We've turned into this woman very, very fast. Okay. So shout out to us, shout out to that American dream that we're holding on to. Okay. So let's just talk about some more stuff. Okay. So what about the healthcare? So the Republicans talked about, well, as soon as you open up the government, Schumer and Hakeem, and as soon as you guys vote to open up the government, we can talk healthcare. So now, if you know, the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, whatever you call it, Trump care, whatever you call it right now, healthcare that people have trusted in since Obamacare, is now the tax subsidies are expiring December 31st. So there's a tax credit that goes along with those subsidies. So basically, the government is paying for people's health care. But now that subsidy is up. And so all of the premiums are going to balloon. So somebody might be paying, so everybody got their notice in the mail. Your premium is going up $2,000. So people can't afford that. People can't even afford what they're asking. I'm an insurance broker. Shout out to New American Life and AccuSure. And people can't even afford, the basic, and it's probably about, for good health care, about, anywhere from $600 to $800 a month. And if you don't have a job that, puts in some of that and helps you out, and even these tax credits, it's definitely unaffordable. And you don't know when you're going to get sick, but you got to have something for when you do get sick. So it is hard out here for a PIMP. Okay. So, but listen, so now they're back. So now Congress is back in session, and now Trump has floated a new idea. Okay. Of course he is. Instead of the government paying insurers, because now they're saying, and I'm going to check to see how real this is, but Obama supposedly had got a $2.5 million check from the money that he got from the insurance. Now I saw it, didn't really believe it, but then I'm starting to say, he could have got a cut of that, but did he cut himself in? America, America, America. Did he cut himself in? I don't know. So this is essentially a healthcare freedom direct spending model, similar to health savings accounts, but bigger and more flexible. It would allow people to buy private insurance, pay out of pocket, join medical co-ops, or use it for alternative care. So now Trump is saying, listen, let's do away. Trump don't like Obama. Let's be clear. Trump is never going to like the black man that was able to be president before him. Now, that's just a black white thing. Let's just get over it. It is what it is. Trump is not going to like Obama. Obama got it in him. But I always say that if Trump tries to run for the third term, Obama is way younger than Trump. Okay. So can you imagine Trump being 82 and running, and Obama being 60 whatever and running for a third term? And I don't like what Obama did for America, but his charisma and his way, I don't know. That would be a good one. That would be a good showdown. Okay. So I'm sure that Steve Bannon is working on that, because he promised us that we would see Trump running for a third term. Okay. So buy private insurance. Okay. Pay out of pocket, join medical co-ops, or use it for alternative care. What I like about Trump 47, Trump 25, what I like about him right now is I like that he's trying to put money in the American people's pockets. That's what I like. I like the fact that he's out here, bullying these other countries and saying, yeah, we need a couple dollars. We need a couple dollars for you to come over here and sell to us. Now, if you frequent other countries, right? I do frequent other countries. If you frequent other countries, a lot of our products are not there in their countries, right? Why is that? It's because we have to pay hefty tariffs to be in their country. So they follow their laws and they respect their community and their people and let their people get money. We let anybody and everybody come in here and don't worry about who's getting money. We just worry about the consumer. America was consumers. We consume. People show us stuff. We say, "Ooh, we like that pretty stuff," and we go buy it. People say, "Oh, this costs $10,000." Ooh, we run and go buy it, and we don't care. Now, Trump is saying, "Listen, if they want to come and do some business over here, they got to pay for it." But now what the American people are saying, that's translating into the prices of food going up, the inflation and everything like that. Well, Trump is like, well, listen, if I give you $2,000 to cover those costs, we'll get this together and that'll stop. You'll stop having to pay for it. So there has to be a time when you're doing something that that when you do something, sometimes it's going to be hard. I feel like this is the hard time. When you got to cut the fat, trim this and trim that. And we've seen so many people lose jobs. We've seen so many people do this and so many people do that. And we don't feel that it's good because it's not the American way as we've known it. Now Trump is coming and looking at America as a corporation and operating it from a corporation point of view. And not that we're American citizens and all that kind of stuff, but he's doing that. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to cut the middleman out, shrink the bureaucracy, and increase choice. Now, he only has a short period of time to do that. And the next president could very well come in and flip everything back to what it was. But the hope is that what he's doing, okay, what Trump is actually doing works. And then everybody will vote to keep it and even vote for another Republican president. Now, there was floating rumors that J.D. Vance was going to run as the president in the next time around, and his running mate would have been the late Charlie Kirk. And so we haven't heard anything back for that. I'm sure him and his wife, or Charlie Kirk's wife, J.D. Vance, and Charlie Kirk's wife are still mourning their husband and friend. And so I look at this and say, how can our black and brown communities around the world win with Trump? Because I feel like Trump is in office. We'll talk about Nicki Minaj when we come back from break. And she went to the UN yesterday and she spoke to the UN about what's happening in Nigeria and how they're persecuting Christians in Nigeria. But in America, is America free or not? And that's the question that we've got to come up with. Is America really free or not? Now, Trump, I feel like, again, that he's putting money back into the hands of the people. And that's where we need it. Government programs don't work, or do they? But people making their own health choices does. I think that's good. Black families don't need more paperwork. We need freedom and flexibility. That's a good one too. So whether you love Trump or not, this could change the entire healthcare game. So how do you feel about that? Do you want the money in your pocket? Tell us when you come back here on Millennium News 24. We'll go to a break and be right back with Jineea Butler and your new American perspective. And we are back here with your new American perspective here on Millennium News 24. It's your girl, Lady J, in the building. But now, so what we're talking about. So Nicki Minaj, hold on one second. Let me just get the Nicki Minaj she agreed to go to the UN yesterday. She agreed to go to the UN yesterday, and she spoke on behalf of Nigerians being persecuted in Nigeria for being Christians. She addressed the U.S. hosted event tied to United Nations where she spoke out on the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. She thanked Donald Trump, when she thanked Donald Trump, she actually lost 100,000 followers on Instagram immediately after she thanked Donald Trump for calling attention to the issue and linked religious freedom to a broader human rights framework. So now, this is where our community goes wrong, because what are we saying? So we don't do anything Trump. If you're black and you do anything Trump, even if it's good, the black people are going to come for you. Right? Because Amanda Seals and Tamika Mallory, they jumped out and they're ready to tear up another black woman. Oh, no, they're on black patrol. Okay? There's a black patrol out there, and that black patrol says you cannot pass go. You're not black enough. You said something to somebody we don't like. We're taking you to black jail. Okay? So her speech sparked both support and backlash, right? Some media questioned parts of her claims and the alignment with political figures. So, I don't know where Nicki came from. I know what we do know is that Nicki has been having a personal feud with Cardi B, with Jay-Z, Bia, and they all kind of have Nicki's face. They all look like Nicki. They all came after Nicki, but Nicki came after Foxy and Kim. Let's keep it hip hop here. That is a G check. So, but you have Nicki Minaj, who is, sometimey, I don't know if she's following behind Cardi B, trying to be political. I mean, you could say that there goes the angle for you. There goes the angle for you, Cardi. But, she is talking about Christians being persecuted. Now, the way that it sounded to me was that her community, Nicki Minaj's community, it sounded as if the Barbs had alerted her to it, and she's coming to their rescue for her fans. That's what it sounded like to me. Otherwise, I don't know where it came from. But so why is this major music star addressing persecution at the UN, right? What does her thanking Trump signifies in culture, politics, space, right? I think this is an opening. I've brought hip hop folks to Trump. And I think that we reached out to Nikki during the Trump campaign to see if she would, come out and stomp for Trump. I think that she said no, or she wanted like $500 million. They were all Bootsy and everybody. You see Bootsy, he's trying to go for a pardon for Trump, and he was, in the White House. He's been keeping low, and he's hoping that, that he could do the right thing and get Trump to pardon him. But, I don't know how this tied into your theme: Black voices, entrepreneurship, and public accountability, right? We've got to think about that. So we've got, like I said, we've got people calling Nicki Minaj out. And then and this is what I say about people who are pardoned by Trump. Do we stop people from getting pardoned because you don't like Trump? Because the Black Patrol is out and making sure that nobody crosses the line. And when nobody crosses the line, you're not invited to the party anymore. And that's the Black Party. You're not invited. You're not part of the Black community. You're not revered in the Black community. But now we're looking at a Black community that, are you really for the Black community, or are you just really about standing on top of the Black community? We've got to really ask ourselves that question. So shout out to Nicki Minaj for standing up. But again, what did she stand up for? Was it just Christians in Nigeria and thank you Trump and all this kind of stuff? And now you got, she said that Rock Nation, she actually said that she was retiring a few months ago. So she actually said that Jay-Z made her retire. So now Desiree Perez, she had said something, and it is what it is. But let's move on to another perspective. I want to hear from you about this. Let's move on and let's talk about New York City. So New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, congratulations again to Zohran. He is winning people over as the mayor-elect. I mean, I think it's quick too. I think that, if you had a problem at the ballot box, but people like power, right? People like to be around power. They need to be amongst power. So now if you don't like the mayor and you New York City and you can't like the mayor, everybody's saying, oh, well, we're wishing him well and we want to jump behind him. Shout out to John Catsimatidis and 77 WABC for the forum that they did the other day about, this hysteria going on with Zohran Mamdani. Shout out to him about that. So is backing police commissioner. Zohran, he's getting smart. He's got his picks going on. He's in his pick season. FanDuel, it should be up there of who's going to pick for what, right? So we've got Tish, Jessica Tish, who is the police chief. Okay, he's keeping her. Okay, he's keeping her as the police chief, and so they must have talked, right? And Zohran has been very critical of the police, and so one thing that I think about him being critical of the police is we probably won't have any horrible police shootings that are mistaken identity police shootings under his regime, because I know that the people and the cops know. We know that 5,000 are supposed to resign on January 1st. Now, also, Zohran is trying to pull together he's trying to pull together social workers to fill that role. Now, shout out to one of my friends. He works for the social work. He's doing social work in the streets. Actually, I'm going to have him on. I wish I would have thought about this before, but I'm going to have him on to talk about what that means. Okay, so definitely to talk about what it means, what he's been doing out in the street. And I'll reach out to him today and I'll get him on for next week, because I think that we can talk about, does this make sense, right? Is this something that makes sense. And I think that he's doing a good job. And maybe these social workers need to be trained police officers. Maybe they just need to go ahead and do everything instead of it. So Elsie Stefanik is the GOP candidate who has jumped out running for governor against Kathy Hochul. Now, a lot of New Yorkers are upset, but we have to remember when we're talking about the Governor Hochul, there are 10 million people in New York, and there's a lot of people outside of the city as we know it. She's upstate in Albany and Buffalo. You got all of them. So it's just not New York, right? New York City, even though that we feel like we're the biggest, even though we feel like all of that is not the biggest area, right? So Elsie Stefanik, who is current congresswoman, she is running for governor in New York. She's been reshaping herself as a MAGA aligned, tough on crime, anti-corruption Republican. She has strong support upstate, okay, good, and national GOP voters. So people are trying to get Hope out. When I ran against AOC, they wanted her out so bad they were sending me crazy money. Why it matters. If she runs, she immediately becomes the Republican front runner. We know that in New York, Republicans are, whatever. I mean, after what happened with Curtis, and then the Republicans, we flipped over and was going with Cuomo. So I don't know. I think that we got to come out with something a little stronger, and maybe there's a strong Democratic candidate that would be good to go against Hochul, but Republicans in New York, I don't believe it anymore. She could pull moderate Democrats, independents, and suburban women. And I think Republicans in New York are the rich New Yorkers. And I don't think that the rich New Yorkers have enough time to do what it takes to get all the rest of the New Yorkers on board. Okay. So I think that's where that's at. So we'll keep our eye on that. New York, let's just keep this is a key point, is New York hasn't had a Republican governor since Pataki. Okay, and that Stefanik is the first serious contender in 20 years. Now, is she a serious contender? Trump likes her, he'll support her and stuff like that. But do we have the numbers in New York to have a Republican governor? I'm not sure. Now, there's a lot of people that went out in the process, right? So also AOC's distancing himself from Hakeem Jeffries. And here's what's happening now. This is word on the street. After we talked about somebody running against Hakeem Jeffries yesterday, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is pulling away from Jeffries because Epstein donation outreach scandal. Oh, so she's using that, huh? She's using that ideological differences. That means she's trying to replace somebody in the house with him. My vote, Jonathan Jackson, Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Jeffrey's refusal to back progressive demands, right? So remember this is two different factions of the Democratic group, right? So you got AOC and you got a Democratic Socialist in AOC, and they just won the mayor race in New York, so they're gaining steam. So now AOC is about to bury. I told you that she's about to bury Jeffries in this Epstein scandal and pressure from the squad base. And so the squad is saying, listen, get them up out of here. We need a Democratic Socialist as the leader. So how's that going to turn out, Democrats? Y'all got a lot on your hands. Okay. So why it matters. Democrats are showing their fractures, right? The establishment. So they're not together, right? Democrats are not necessarily voting together. We've seen how, the House shut down. They wanted to keep everything quiet. Let's go till the end of December and let's push this and let's get this. And then 8 of them said, nah, we up out of here. And so we know that Schumer is on the chopping block, even on the chopping block. Even Trump has said that, listen, I think Schumer got to go. Well, him and Schumer don't get along. New Yorkers, white men in New York don't get along when they're on different sides of it. It's very interesting. Do you ever seen a white fight? It's crazy. These white men fighting against each other. It's a difference when, it's like a Trump against Obama because we know why they like him. But then when the inside stuff of these white men fighting white men, woof. Anyway, so AOC is distancing herself from distancing herself undermines Jeffrey's image and as a unified leader of the party. And so, they came together at one point, but you should have known, Hakeem. You should have known that she was going to stab you in the back. And I think that she did. And so Hakeem, he's out, he's on CNN every day. And, and it's a shame because, this rise for him, when you get this rise, do you get it again? Right. You have to take it and own it once you have it, because do you get it again? If AOC, kids jump older woman in Chicago. Now, did you hear about this? This is what's happening. So a viral video of a group of teens brutally assaulted an older woman on the street in Chicago. So they just did it. So bystanders reported nobody helped. The woman suffered the woman suffered injuries, crazy injuries. And now they're little kids. So their parents are bringing them forward and their parents are making them apologize. Now, I don't know if they going to jail. They're not old enough to go to jail. So let's not even talk about it. But they look like they were 12 years old, a little younger. And I think that the kids are definitely misguided. So we've got to get, to these children early on to really stop them from doing what they're doing. So we're going to take a break really quick here on the New American Perspective. And we're going to come back with our last segment about everything America here on the New American Perspective. I'm your host, Jineea Butler. Join me, Jineea Butler, for the New American Perspective every Wednesday at 12 noon for an in-depth look of education, politics, economics, and entertainment from Republican and conservative views. The first of its kind on the Millennium News 24 and the Millennium TV 24 network. We will conceptualize and debate the rights and wrongs of the society, and together we will build the New American Perspective and share it with the rest of the world. You can tune in on all iOS and Android platforms, branded smart TVs, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. If you're around the world, Horizon Satellite. If you're in Europe or Australia, the Sky Network. Tune in to MillenniumNews24.com or MillenniumTV24.com. All social media, Millennium News 24. We're live and have the podcast at the same time. I am a citizen, and this is our perspective. And we are back here with your New American Perspective. I'm here. My name is Jineea Butler, and I'm your host today on Millennium News 24, news that you could use. And, just our everyday talking things. So we've talked about a lot today. There's a lot going on every week. Once we do every week, we'll actually be on twice a week now. And hopefully we'll get to our daily debut. But we are going to be talking more and more and more and more. Okay, so we talked about Hakeem Jeffries being in the Epstein files. We talked about President Trump wanting to give the money to the American people instead of these insurance companies. We talked about Epstein and why this matters to everyday people. We talked about most of the stuff that's going on. So what else should we be talking about here on the New American Perspective? Thanksgiving is coming up. And so there's so many things going on. Thanksgiving, we are we are looking forward to Thanksgiving. Not me, per se. I mean, I have a problem with the holidays because I believe that so many people are hurt during the holidays. I worked in social work for so long, and Rikers Island, homeless services, youth services. I've worked in a lot of places where people are hurting. So while people are running around all joyous, celebrating the holidays and things like this, there's people who don't have money, and they're told that during these holidays they should be festive. During these holidays they should have food. And so we see all of the food drives and nobody going hungry for one day. But why don't we take all this Thanksgiving money and spread it out over the year? All the money that we spend on a Thanksgiving. You got Jim Jones in Harlem. He pulled up with the Cousins lobster truck the other day, and he fed all of Harlem. He had it out there for a couple hours. That was a good gesture. He's out giving turkeys yesterday. Max B, shout out to Max B. He just got out of jail. He's ready to do a turkey drive in Harlem, and everybody wants to give during this Thanksgiving season because we put in our mind, in America, it's just basic. You go to Easter. If you're a Christian, no disrespect to any of the Muslims or anything like that, but you go to Easter once a year. So you get your once a year, put on your Easter outfit, you do that. You give thanks once a year, you give gifts once a year. And that kind of tells the American people that that's okay. But if you have a higher power and you answer to a higher power, that's not enough. Right? We can't sit back and be like, oh, well, the people are going to be happy for today. And I've got Indian in my family. So I kind of feel some type of way about celebrating the massacre of Indians by pilgrims in the United States. I feel some type of way that you're telling us to pull up and, celebrate like they celebrated. They massacred them after they ate with them, So I don't know how that works. But there's a massive storm. If you are traveling this week, for if you are traveling this week for Thanksgiving, next week for Thanksgiving, there is a massive storm. A multi-state storm is hitting right before and during Thanksgiving, one of the busiest travel weeks in the year. So it's crazy. So the impacts include heavy rain, thunderstorms, snow in the Midwest and northern states. Oh my God. High winds, flash flooding, airport delays and cancellations, dangerous road travel and conditions. And the major cities affected are Chicago, Detroit, New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Denver. Airlines have already issued travel waivers, especially for Tuesday to Thursday. Boy, I wish I had a ticket right now. Get me another free ticket to go somewhere. But the travel impact, FAA warns heavy delays at O'Hare, LaGuardia, JFK, Boston Logan, and Denver. Over 55 million Americans are expected to travel for the holiday. The storm is hitting the peak travel days. And so with the air traffic crisis, see, this is why this was bad. And this is why you need to hold people accountable for this, because with the air traffic crisis already happening, right, because of the shutdown, right? So that was already bad. Now the storms are coming in and exposing just how fragile our national travel system has become. Now, who's to blame for that? We're still trying to figure out. Republicans, Democrats, Trump, you, me, the new Americans. What is it? So their power outages in Northeast and Midwest utilities, they're getting ready for a potential power outage out there for hundred thousands of outages. So they're already preparing for this for the Thanksgiving season. But no matter what you're doing, if you are with your family and if you can share and give love, don't just make it this day, but make sure that if you can do it, do it. There's nothing wrong with getting love. Wet snow, high winds, down blinds, flooding in urban areas, New York City, Philly, Baltimore, and Boston. Flash floods alerts already issued in several counties. Okay, so preparation, infrastructure, and leadership matter. Okay, during this time, especially for cities run by Democrats who love to tax but don't deliver services. Now, prove me wrong on that, people. Storms don't care about politics. Remember that. But leadership failures make storms worse. Okay, so the economic impact, it's going to be a little, so delayed shipments, slow down distribution, people stuck in travel, grocery stores and restaurants may deal with shortages. So this is why local economies need stronger, resilient supply chains, not bloated government systems that collapse at the first sign of stress. So here we are, people. So we're going into Thanksgiving. I'll see you next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, and we could talk about everything that's happening and what we're going to eat. Like I said, I don't really celebrate the holidays, so don't necessarily look to me to be so festive. I mean, I celebrate because I think it's for the kids, and I celebrate because you celebrate, and everything that comes in between. But I don't think that, with all the people that are hurting, all the people who have lost loved ones over in the holidays and have to go through it, and really believe that this is not a man-made situation. Holidays are man-made, people. They're man-made, and they're definitely good for people who have it, and they're horrible for people who don't. So I want you to think about now, before the feeling gets in and before the lights and camera and action go on. Don't forget that this is a man-made holiday, and that Thanksgiving, Christmas, man-made holidays. So we look to say, well, I want to, have something under the tree, and be ritual, do our ritual every year, and forget about the people who lost their parents and their loved ones during the holidays, and don't think about how people commit suicide and how suicide issues go up during this holiday season. So definitely take that into consideration. Reach out to loved ones who may not have, make sure that, you're not, clowning in people's faces and everything that comes along with the stuff. And so you, again, have a great uh have a great Thanksgiving if that's what you celebrate. Have a great holiday if that's what you celebrate. Happy holidays to all. I mean, again, I hate the fact that everybody cuts out and doesn't work until January 1st after this, and this is basically our vacation of away from stuff. And so we'll see how everything works out. But thank you for joining me today. Thank you so much for joining me today here on the New American Perspective with Millennium News 24. And we are actually let me see, what else can I got a couple seconds to get a couple more little tidbits in, and I'm just trying to see, I'm looking at my notes. And so, how are you liking the show nowadays, the G Check? Because our Fly Girl Energy, Smart Talk, Real Perspective. We need a tagline. So I got Fly Girl Energy, Smart Talk, Real Perspective. You like that one? Put it in the comments. The New American Perspective, where culture meets clarity. And we're all these things. These are things that me and my team have been brainstorming on, empowering communities one story and one business at a time. You want your brand in front of viewers who care about the culture in the community? Advertise with us. So we're looking for new advertisers here on Millennium News 24, specifically here for the New American Perspective. So you can connect with my group and so you can connect with my group of folks. But so from the headlines to business insight, from this is my ending tagline now. From headlines to business insight, stay fly, stay focused. This is your host, Jineea Butler, for the New American Perspective on Millennium News 24. I'll see you next week.